Hello and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I wanted to do another Bookstagram challenge where we talk about the first book I've ever read by an author versus my favorite book I've ever read by that author. So let's get into it. So the first author I wanted to talk about today is Sarah Adams. She's one of the authors that I started reading a lot when I started getting back into reading back in about 2022, and the first book I ever read by her was The Cheat Sheet. This is a super cute romance about best friends Bree and Nathan. Nathan is an NFL player and Bree is a ballerina and has been secretly in love with Nathan for years, but she's never going to say anything. Nathan is way out of her league and she would never risk ruining their friendship because she doesn't think he feels the same way. But one night, she accidentally drunkenly gushes everything to a reporter in a bar bathroom, and it goes viral. And Nathan's agent, he's eating it up. And his agent convinces Bree and Nathan to fake date to keep getting a bunch of press attention for Nathan's team because they're about to go to the Super Bowl. I gave this one 5 stars back in 2022. I still stand by that rating. Such a good book. And while I do love this one, it's not my favorite that I've read by Sarah Adams. The favorite book that I've read by her actually came out last year in 2024, and it's actually in the same universe as this book, and that is The Rule Book. Now, this one might be a little bit of a surprise for you guys because I usually am not a big fan of second chance romances, but this one, it does second chance romances right. We're following Nora, who is a sports agent, and she has just been assigned her first solo client. And this is a huge deal, like a make or break her career kind of deal. And so she's been assigned this hotshot NFL player named Derek. And so this is all looking like it's going to be really good for her. Except no one knows that Derek is actually her college ex-boyfriend, and he's holding a grudge. It was such a good book. I gave this one 5 stars. I definitely recommend you pick up both of these, but I think The Rule Book, I think it might be one of my favorite sports romances I've ever read. Super, super good. An author that I only just started reading last year is Lauren Asher. The first book I read by her was The Fine Prince, and I wasn't the biggest fan of this one, but it gets better. So for this one, we're in kind of this alternate universe where there's this big company that has their own amusement park called Dreamland. It's essentially this universe's version of Disneyland, and this universe's version of Walt Disney. His name is Brady Kane, and he has 3 grandsons. And when Brady passes away, in his will, there are tasks for each grandson to complete in order to get their inheritance. So for this book, we're following Rowan. He's the youngest grandson, and his task is he has to create a improvement for the Dreamland Park, and it's going to be decided by the board on if he has made a significant impact, and that will dictate whether or not he gets his inheritance. I wasn't a huge fan of this one. I didn't really like the romance that was in it. I didn't really buy the relationship, and the improvement that Rowan did on the park, I kind of felt like it was the bare minimum, and that I can't say more about it without spoiling the book. So I'm just going to leave it at that. I gave this one 2 stars. But my favorite book that I read by Lauren Asher is actually the 3rd book in this series, Final Offer. And I gave this one 5 stars. So for this one, we're following Cal. He is one of the grandsons, and he's had some struggles. He's struggled with some substance abuse problems, and he just hasn't had a lot of direction in his life. Cal's task is to spend the summer in Lake Wisteria, which is where the family has their lake house, and at the end of the summer, after being there, he has to sell the house. That sounds easy enough, but that then forces him to have to interact with the only woman he's ever loved. And I just loved this one so much. You could get away with not reading the first 2 books, and I think you would still understand, but I think it's still best if you read all 3. But this one, it was such a good way to end the series. There was such good character development in this one, so I gave this one 5 stars. I really, really liked it. Super, super good read. Another author that I just started reading last year is Ali Hazelwood, and the first book I read by her was Check and Mate. This is technically a YA book, and in this one, we're following Mallory. She is, I believe, 18 when the book starts, and she used to be really into competitive chess, but some things went down. She doesn't play anymore. She's now focused on supporting her mom and her sisters until her best friend, right before her best friend leaves for college, begs and finally convinces Mallory to do one last chess tournament. It's for charity and they're down a person. And so Mallory agrees and she goes. And throughout the tournament, she ends up being paired with the world's current chess champion and she beats him, which then goes viral. So then Mallory is reached out to by this company for an internship, and it actually pays really well. The only problem is she can't let her family know that she started playing chess again. And this one, it was cute. It was a nice, easy read. I gave it 4 stars, but my favorite book that I've read by Ali Hazelwood, I actually just read it a couple weeks ago, and that's Bride. I know a lot of people have talked about this since it came out last year, but I really, really liked it, which is saying something, right? Because I don't usually read things that have vampires and werewolves, but I just really, really enjoyed this one. So we're following Misery. She's a vampire, and she's the daughter of the head councilman, so one of the most powerful vampires. And she's been put into an arranged marriage to try to build peace between the wares, which for hundreds of years has been the vampire's like mortal enemy. And so she's been put into a marriage with the Ware's Alpha. I don't know, man. I just really liked this one. I thought there was a good twist at the end. It kind of gave me the same vibes as like a mafia romance where there's the territories that each group, because there's also humans in the mix. And so there's like these territories and there's very strict lines and different hierarchies of power for the different ones. And I really liked this one. I gave it 4 stars. It wasn't perfect. It is my favorite book that I've read by her so far. Jumping genres, I wanted to talk about Riley Sager. The first book I read by him was The House Across the Lake, and it wasn't my favorite. It started off real strong for me. So we're following Casey. She's an actress and she's had a hard time with the press. There's been some drama that went down. And so to kind of lay low and just let things blow over, she is at her family's lake house. And to occupy herself, she's taken up snooping on the neighbors while enjoying some adult beverages. And this is all fine until the couple that lives across the lake that she's been snooping on with her binoculars, the wife goes missing, and Casey's determined to figure out what happened to her. I really, really liked this one until we got to the twist, and then it completely ruined the book for me. And I won't say what it was because I don't want to spoil it, but it completely ruined it for me, and I was so sad to the point where I was hesitant to even pick up anything else by Riley Sager, but I was convinced, and I'm really glad I did because my favorite book by him is The Only One Left, which I have talked about here before, so I'll try to keep it kind of short. For this book, one night in 1929, there's a bloody massacre of the Hope family. The mom and father are found stabbed. One of the daughters is found hanging in the home, and the only survivor is the other daughter, Lenora. And because she's the only one still alive, it's assumed that she was the one who committed the murders. Because of the time and because of the status of the family, Lenora didn't face any jail time, it seems. So fast forward now to 1983, Lenora is in her 70s. She's had a series of strokes, and because of that, she now needs around-the-clock full-time care. And that's how we find our main character, Kit. She's a local, and she's a little hesitant about being in this now decaying mansion. She's heard the nursery rhymes about what happened. She's extra spooked when she finds out that the previous caregiver just randomly fled in the middle of the night, even left behind some of her belongings. But Kit really needs this job. She needs the money, so she's gonna do it. Things get extra spooky when, using a typewriter, Lenora types out one tantalizing sentence. I want to tell you everything. It wasn't me. Such a good thriller. This is one of my favorites. I've made a bunch of my family members read it because I just thought it was so good. I binged this one in like maybe a day and a half. Super, super good. One of my all-time favorite thrillers. I gave it 5 stars. The last author I wanted to talk about for today's video is Lucy Score. The first book I ever read by her was Pretend You're Mine back in 2023. It's the first book in the Benevolence series. We have Luke. He's a member of the National Guard, and he lives in this small town, Benevolence. His family is constantly nagging him to start dating again, to put himself back out there, and he has zero interest. Enter Harper. She is down on her luck and she is looking at starting over her life, starting a new chapter. And so she's on her way to a friend's when she ends up actually running out of gas in this small town. Some things come up and Harper finds herself pretending to be Luke's girlfriend. It gives her some place to stay. It gives him the opportunity to enjoy this last month or so before he deploys again without his family constantly nagging him about dating. The only problem is what happens when it starts to not feel like pretend. I really like this one. I thought it was cute, and it's really fun. The second book in this series, the timeline overlaps a little bit, but you're getting it from a different character's perspective, so I thought that was really cool. I ended up giving this one 4 stars, but my favorite book I've ever read by Lucy Score is actually Things We Left Behind. To be completely honest, it's a bit of a tie between Things We Left Behind and Things We Hide from the Light. For the sake of this video, we're going to talk about Things We Left Behind. This is the final book in the Knock 'Em Out series. Once again, not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but we're following Lucian and Sloane. Lucian is this cold, ultra-billionaire. Sloane is a librarian living in Knock 'Em Out, which is the same place where Lucian grew up. And they actually used to be neighbors. And it's really fun because you get to figure out what's going on between the two of them and what this feud is that you had seen throughout the entire series. I felt like this one did a really good job of wrapping up the entire series, and there was a twist for the kind of like B plot that's been going on throughout the entire series, and I really, really liked this whole series, to be honest, but I think this one's my favorite. Again, I still really loved Things We Hide from the Light, but I think this one's my favorite. Also, the covers for all of these are so pretty. I love this whole series. This one did such a good job of wrapping up the series. This is definitely one you need to read the entire series. You can't just jump into one of them because the B plot extends throughout the entire thing and you will be confused. But trust me, it's worth it. These are also on Kindle Unlimited too. I just loved these books so, so much. Alrighty, so that is it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. This was super fun to do. I have a bunch of other authors I could talk about, so if you're interested, let me know in the comments and I could definitely do a part 2. While you're down there, let me know if you've read anything by the authors that I talked about today, and let me know what your first and favorite books by them were. I'm always looking to extend my TBR. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in a couple weeks. Bye.